COVID-19 or coronavirus prevented us from meeting in person. So now we're able to do our Zoom meeting, which is great. This is our first webcasted meeting, and please bear with us as we may have some glitches or adjustments to the new technology. So new means of communicating. So we're happy to be back and be attending to the needs of the town. Let's see. First up, we have the Pledge of Allegiance. If you look at Amanda's screen, Amanda and Eric, we're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance. If Jerry Manning can please lead us, that would be great.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Jerry. Okay, just a few housekeeping things first. We have a couple opportunities for the public to interface at this meeting. And I would ask that if you are Zooming with us and want to make a public comment during this public comment section, please use the raised hand icon that should be on your screen, and that will alert us to your in commenting or speaking. We request that you have that you announce yourself and that you state your address for us, and then your comments in 3 minutes or less, if you would. We want to accommodate all the public, so if you would like to address the board, please do so. We ask that for your patience as we kind of work through this all. Amanda is with us tonight, and she's going to help us as to coordinate the documents and of the review of documents. So she's going to display them on the screen for us as we go forward for the Munter Boyd Haven public hearing and the Burgoyne public hearing as well. So,
Madam Chair, sorry to interrupt your speech. We've got a call to the supervisor from applicant Munter. He's having troubles dialing in on the access number. I was wondering if you might be able to reaffirm that access number for us. If you have that here.
Tina, do you have that with you? I think I might have it on. Hold on a second. I think I might have it.
I do have it. I just confirmed it, the same one that I gave Supervisor Zlotnick, but I can forward Mr. Munter that email so he can just click on the link, but then you'll have to change it because I don't know if he'll come in as a panelist or attendee.
Okay, that's fine. I can do that.
Once he comes in, you can make him a panelist, can't you?
I can promote and demote.
There you go. You got the power.
So either way, yep, he can use that. Not a problem. Okay, next on the agenda we have the minutes from February 27th, 2020. Are there any comments or questions on those? I know I have one, but I'd like to hear from you folks if you have any comments for those. No? Okay. The only one that I had, Tina, was for the area variance for Amash. The identifier, or I'm not sure, the designation for it, we had gone back and forth about this, but it's 177, not 107. Does that make sense? Okay. Okay, if there's no other comments, if I could get a motion to approve the minutes with that modification. Eric, can I get a second?
I'll second the motion.
Pat?
Yes, I'll second the motion.
Tina, can you call the roll for us, please?
Mr. Curry?
Yes.
Mr. Quillen?
Yes.
Mr. Manning?
Abstain, I wasn't at the meeting.
Mr. Smasnow?
Yes.
Chairwoman Sterling?
Yes. Thank you. All right, next on the agenda is the public comments section of our meeting. I stated a few ground rules to that. At this point, we're going to open that public comment that time. Please note that we do have the public hearings for both the Boyhaven variance as well as the Burgoyne public hearing. So if you have any comments for those projects, please wait until we have the hearings for those so we can record those appropriately. Okay, I'm not seeing any hands. So I'm going to close the public hearing. It is currently 7:07. Okay, so next on the agenda, we do have the public hearing for Howard Amash for the area variance at 720 Burgoyne Avenue, 177.5-1-1. It is the appropriate time, however, we do not have him in attendance. How do you propose, Bill, that we proceed with this?
Do we have any indication of what his status is at the moment? And to some extent, I may be asking Tina or Bill Lewis in particular.
Status as far as
His intent to attend.
the interpretation was, that his intent was to attend and, proceed with the area variance for his RV.
I did receive an email from Mr. Amash last week. I think it was Thursday. He tried to attend last week when there was no meeting. So he emailed me and told me he couldn't get on, and I had called him back and told him it was this week, and he said he would be here. I just tried calling him again 10 minutes ago, and went to his voicemail twice.
Okay. Do you have his number, Tina?
Yes.
So you have a bit of a choice. I mean, you certainly have the ability to go forward with the public hearing. It is the appointed time. Now it's after the appointed time.
Yeah.
We can defer it. The only practical problem you'll have, Meg, is that your next public hearing is at 7:30, I believe. I'll check the time. I don't think it's
Right.
7:35. I think it's 7:30.
Yes.
So you'll have a block of some time here. The other alternative is you can certainly go forward with the public hearing. There's no prohibition on that.
Yeah. I would propose that we move forward on the public hearing, since we did get some public comment on it. So I think we have some good grounds as far as the stance of the folks that are in the neighborhood for Mr. Amash. Certainly if he does join us at some point during this discussion, we can kind of cue him in if he wants to speak further to it. Okay, so
you'll open the public hearing now at 7:10 a.m., knowing that we've afforded the applicant a little bit of time, and what
Yes.
Tina has indicated, and then certainly go right ahead.
okay, Bill, should I make a motion or should I request a motion to open the public hearing for this?
No, you don't need a motion to open your public
Okay.
hearing. You can just open it.
Okay, so we'll open the public hearing. It's 7:10 p.m. So we have this public hearing tonight for an area variance for Howard Amash, which is at 720 Burgoyne Avenue. The area variance is requesting relief from the Town Code Section 167-4, subsection K, stating in the RV storage area that storage of said recreational vehicles shall not extend beyond the front line of the primary dwelling or closer than 60 feet from the road, whichever is less. So the relief, after talking with Mr. Lewis, the relief of the front setback would be 25 feet. So 35 feet versus the 60 feet. So that's kind of the background to the public hearing. Obviously, with Mr. Amash not here, we can't get a little bit more detail, but I think that kind of covers it in essence. Is that correct, Bill?
That is correct, Madam Chair.
Okay. All right. Now, do we want to bring up the letters, or did everyone get a chance to review the letters from the neighbors of Mr. Amash? And so we have, Amanda, there are 3 letters. 2 are from the same, I believe 2 are from the same neighbor, and 1 is from a different neighbor. Oh, is that Mr. Amash? Here, hold on. I have someone that just joined, so it may be Mr. Amash.
I'll give you the team that you did it.
Neighbor letters were, no, that's I need you to enable screen sharing.
Okay. Screen share. Now I'm not sharing my screen, is that correct?
Correct. I'm going to be sharing my screen.
Okay, so where do I do that? I see share screen, but that's my screen.
I don't know.
Madam Chair, just to give you some information, Mr. Amash is on the line and he's having issues trying to dial in. Tina's re-instructing him how to get in, and he should be in this here momentarily.
Okay.
Meg, do you have a little arrow next to the screen share?
Next to Amanda's screen?
No, down at the bottom. It says screen share. Next to it.
Yes, let's see.
Enable.
Okay, yes, I do. Who can start sharing when someone else is sharing? Okay. I think that would, I think I allowed it. Let's see. All right. Great. Okay, so this is the most current letter from a neighbor, and so this is from, I think it's, we scroll down, I think it's from 722 Burgoyne, I believe. Yes, that's Stephen and Karen Scott. They have, as you can read, they have some concerns with the RV. And they also point out some additional, I think that's the one, yeah, some additional information about a shed as well, which does not pertain to this variance.
Chair, to speak on the amended minute.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
I would like to speak I would like to speak in regards to the shed and try to
Yes.
clarify that for the public and for the members.
Yes, please.
The shed is a pre-existing building. The shed was built when the house was installed in the 90s prior to our zoning of the 10-foot side setback. Mr. Amash last year before did some improvements as far as siding and roofing on it. So, in the building department's opinion, it is a pre-existing non-conforming unit. So he's not in any relation for the shed. And again, we're here for the variance for the area variance for the RV at the front of the home.
Yes, thank you. Okay, so let's head to the other 2 letters, if you would, Amanda. Okay, so this is the previous letter from the same neighbor, and in essence, it states states very similar reasons for their concern for the RV there as well. And I believe there's one more. It's a handwritten letter. Let's see, from 721 Burgoyne.
I don't have a letter. I
It's
You should have it, Ramash, as an attendee now.
okay. Let's see here. It could be Janet. I think it might be Janet. Okay, so those are the only two that you had?
Yes.
Okay, so there was and I believe the whole board got this letter, because it was sent out in the original package, but it was from 721 Burgoyne Avenue. And I'll read it so that everyone, since we weren't able to bring it up, I'll read it. Town of Milton Zoning Board, I reside at 721 Burgoyne Avenue, directly across the street from 720 Burgoyne. The very large motorhome parked in their front lawn has been an eyesore for me, and I'm assuming many other neighbors that have to drive by it and see it out their windows every day. My assumption is that it is not within the town ordinances to keep it there. Also, I plan on selling my house in the near future, and have been told by realtors that it will affect my resale value and drive down the price. I hope you can consider my disappointment with his actions and make him follow town ordinances. Thank you for your consideration. Krista Yefemenko, I think is the name, 721 Burgoyne Avenue, Wilson Spot. Okay, so those are the letters from the neighbors that we received, in addition to obviously the application, the original application that we went through with Mr. Amash. And let me see if I can get Mr. Amash, see if he can, if he'd like to say a couple words. And I believe, not exactly sure which one it is, that's the hard part, but let's see if this one's it. If not, we'll go to the next one. Okay.
Hello?
Hi, is this Mr. Amash?
Yes, it is.
Great, okay. I thought I recognized your voice, but I wasn't sure. We were just kind of talking through some of the things around your area variance and your request, your application, as well as some letters from a couple of your neighbors. Didn't know if you wanted to say a few words about your application or anything in regards to the area variance you're seeking.
I heard one letter just now, lady saying it parked on the front lawn. It's not on the front lawn. As you look at the pictures of the map I gave you, it's on the side. It's in between the garage and the fence. It's not on the front lawn. And that's regarding the lady that said that it's on the front lawn and about selling her house. Are you still there?
Yes, yep.
Okay, then the lady next door, who was the original complainant, said it's an eyesore, and she can't even see it, because there's a fence up that she put up. She's got two wooden fences, and then a vinyl fence over the top of it, and from her backyard solarium, she cannot see anything except the top of the RV. The other part of her house facing the RV is a garage. So there's no way the RV is an eyesore to her looking at her solarium. We're also putting up a fence from where her fence ends up another 32 feet. I bought a beautiful vinyl fence, and we're going to put that up. So from the letter that I was putting a big metal building up. Somebody told him I was constructing a building to put the RV in, and it was gonna be an eyesore for the neighborhood. And after talking to these both neighbors, they realized I'm not putting a building up. And the only variance I'm looking for is in the winter time, if it's parked back there, to be able to cover it with the custom cover I bought for it. And that's about it. And to tell you the truth, I had 3 trips planned for last month and this month, and they all got canceled through the pandemic, or the RV would have been gone 3 times already. And I have other trips planned next month, July, August. We hope to go somewhere at Thanksgiving, and possibly after Christmas, we hope to go down to Florida for a couple weeks. So that RV is not going to be covered, and it's going to be running all year. From what the building inspector told me, unless the RV is being stored, there's no problem with it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Amash. As you folks can see, here's a drawing of the current situation and where the RV is currently located.
And there'll be another fence up just between the property line and the RV. And there's no way my neighbor will be able to see that.
Now, Mr. Amash, is that that new fence that you're getting? How far will that extend?
It's 32 feet. It'll be 25 feet from the road, which is the town ordinance.
Okay, thank you.
My neighbor has a fence on the other side that is right out to the road. Also, I want to mention that the neighbor on the opposite side of her, on the right side, has had tremendous trouble with her. The neighbor behind her has had trouble with her, and the previous neighbor back there has had trouble with her. So apparently I was the only one that wasn't having a problem, and now apparently I do.
Okay. Amanda, can you show some of the pictures that we received as well?
I gave you the pictures. I don't know how I can show them.
Yeah, no, Ms. Vermont, I was just asking Amanda. She's
I'm sorry. I'm not good on the computer.
She's just presenting some of the information for us to kind of view as we go along.
Yeah, the RV is back further than it shows in the picture even, because I extended that in the back. Yeah, that RV is back further than that. It's almost back to the tree. Matter of fact, it is back to the tree. I had to cut branches off. Yeah, the RV is probably back about 15 feet more. And the fence I'm putting up will extend from her triple fence there.
Any other pictures? Yes, thank you. Yes, you can minimize the sharing of the screen now, Amanda. Okay.
Excuse me, I'm not that great on the computer.
Oh, that's okay. You're fine.
Thank God for my wife. Like I say, we're in our 70s and we plan to travel constantly now that my wife's retiring. And we'll be all over the country and home now and then.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mr. Mush.
Well, thank you.
Is there anyone else from the public who would like like to comment on this during this public hearing for Mr. Amash on 720 Burgoyne? Okay, I'm not seeing any hands, so I'm going to take that as no additional interest in speaking for this action. Can I get a motion to close the public hearing? It's currently 7:27.
I'll make the motion to close the public hearing.
Can I get a second?
I'll second that.
Thanks, Matt. Okay. Yep.
Mr. Quiller,
Yes.
Mr. Manning,
Yes.
Mr. Sparrow, Chairwoman Summers.
Yes. Thank you. All right. At this time, I'd like to just kind of refer us back, as always, to what the code says for each of these variances. And since this is an area variance, there are several things of consideration, and I already stated those at our previous meeting, which has been a couple months. But you all have those in to kind of refer to, and as we deliberate and kind of think through what's been presented to us. So if I could just get some deliberation, some comments from the board as far as their thoughts, kind of the direction that we. Yes.
Hey, he did do, if you remember back in that meeting we had, I asked him about the tree, about trimming the branches off. So he trimmed off that tree, so now that mobile home is being set back further, I think it was like around 15 feet back further than what he originally had. So, I mean, that kind of helps the situation a little bit, you know.
I'm not seeing where there's too many other options there. From the Grand Avenue side, it doesn't look like that's realistic. And the only other option is to leave it in his driveway or where it is.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other thoughts as far as other considerations or options for Mr. Amash?
The other thing too, Megan, he says he's extended the fence, so if he extends the fence and if that moves back another 15 feet or so, I think the fence is gonna completely cover that side of the exposed RV. And the man, he stated that they're gonna be traveling quite a bit with it, and, they are in their 70s, so, I mean, they want to be mobile, I guess, so that's the only way they can do it, you know.
Okay. Does anybody else have any comments or considerations for us to think through? As far as, kind of referring back again to what the area variance is as far as, changing the character to the neighborhood, which is a consideration. Benefits for the applicant can be achieved by another method or feasible by another. That's the second one. Whether it's a substantial variance, obviously, and proposed variance will have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions in the neighborhood or in the district. And let's see, the difficulty was self-created as well. So obviously we are here to grant the minimum when we look at these, so we have to consider that as well. So granting of the area variance shall be done at a minimum variance. So looking at those, considering those, can I get a motion for or against Mr. Amash for this area variance as stated.
Before we go there, can I ask your opinion on this?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, definitely. So, a couple considerations that kind of, and I drove by Mr. Amash's property, kind of looked at his property, kind of where the RV was in relation to neighbors, relation to, and it's hard to deny that it is evident, obviously, that the RV is there. So, as far as like the character of the neighborhood, I do believe it has a hindrance in the character of the neighborhood. So that consideration, when I was looking at it, so the manner, the of it as well, very, very visible, very evident. Other considerations or other options that he could have considered or can consider is, a smaller. I know that he had one previously, so that's a consideration. Off-site storage is one that we had talked about previously, so that was a big one for me. And he doesn't have a ton of options, as you say, to change the location of it. There possibly could be some play as far as on the other side of the house, but there was considerations as far as that side of the road. Other considerations needed to be taken into play, so that wasn't too much. I guess that wasn't really an option too much. And it did look substantial. It did look substantial in the photographs. The neighbor submitted some photos, and Mr. Amash also submitted some original photos. So those are some of the things, Jerry, that as I looked through the application and tried to consider the application, those are some of the things that I considered as I reviewed it.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot, by the way.
Definitely not. No.
Just so we have enough feedback so that
Understand. Yeah, definitely. Okay, so with that said, if there's no other questions, let's if I can get a motion to approve or deny the area variance for Mr. Amash, Howard Amash, 720 Burgoyne Avenue, 177.5-1-1.
I guess I would make the motion to deny that, to deny the variance.
I'll second it.
Mr. Atari?
Yes.
Mr. Fuller?
Yes.
Mr. Manning?
Yes.
Mr. Smazman?
Yes.
Carolyn Soden?
Yes. And just as a side note, Mr. Amash, certainly if situations change, if something does change, we could reconsider an application. Obviously we need to go through the process again, but if things do change, if circumstances change, that sort of thing, we can look at it in the future. Okay. All right, next on the agenda is the public hearing. Actually, let's see. Oh, right, exactly on time. Excellent, okay. So we have the public hearing for the use variance for the Boyhaven Munter 3430 Boyhaven Road 162.1-14-or.1, sorry. Okay. So a little background on this one. This is definitely, I would say, probably not a easy to understand or cut and dry type of use variance. So I'm just going to try to set the stage a little bit for this one. So on May 20th, the Munter Boyhaven minor subdivision site plan review and special use permit were approved by the planning board. Some of you are aware of that, some of you may not be. Mr. Munter proposed a subdivision of 69 acres of the Boyhaven parcel involving the two ponds and most of the premises that has buildings on it for the purposes of conveying the parcel to a corporation for the operation of a youth summer camp. In addition to this requiring a minor subdivision approval, it also a use in a zoning district that requires a special use permit and site plan approval. These were approved by the planning board last week. Finally, there was, for our perspective, there was a definition conflict in our zoning code regarding camps, dwelling units, and family, which have caused this proposed use in construction of bunk cabins to obtain a use variance for us, the zoning board. The town code in 180-42A2 and specific definitions and word usage in 180-5 have a pretty narrow definition for family. It only permits one family use. So family is narrow and restrictively defined only in those related by blood, marital or adoptive persons living together in a family-like arrangement as a single not-for-profit housekeeping unit, or a group of persons headed by a person responsible for providing care for such persons in a family-like arrangement, which is the functional and factual equivalent of a family of related persons. This prevents the intended use, where in fact the premises has been used for many years as a children's camp, and in zone R2, where a camp is allowed by special permit. We're coordinating our review, as you know, with the planning board for their variance as well, in addition to ours. So I've been communicating with Mr. Varto as the chair of the planning board in regards to that, the coordination, and they took the lead as far as the seeker goes. And in February, the planning board approved the variances for the planning and zoning boards as unlisted actions for seeker, as we know. Due to the coronavirus and the direction of the town board, we did not have a March or April meetings. That's pretty obvious. So we did not have our board meetings either. So kind of with that background, kind of talking about the family unit, that sort of thing, kind of sets the stage a little bit for our use variance for Mr. Munter. We will, let's see, it's 7:39. We're going to open the public hearing for him, and let's have Mr. Munter. Let me see if I can get him here. I'm going to allow Mr. Munter to speak here. Okay, hold on just a sec. Unmute him. Okay, Mr. Munter, welcome to our meeting. Thank you for attending.
Yeah, well, thank you. I believe my father's actually on via phone.
Oh, okay.
We got a little short notice on the meeting tonight. We apologize for being a little shoveled here, but he should be
Oh, that's okay. Okay.
1783.
Okay, I'm going to allow him to speak if you don't mind.
That's
Okay.
perfect. I'm just here for support and in case he couldn't get on. So.
Okay.
Okay. Do you hear the old John Munter?
I hear the senior.
Okay. Well, let's see. Okay. Let me give you a brief overview and then I'll let Mike take over.
Okay, great.
What happened, the last meeting you had in February, I wasn't in town, so I had another one of my sons make the presentation. And basically, he stated that you do allow seasonal camp use at the Boyhaven R2 location. The one problem we ran into was, I think, what the chairman outlined. family per cabin. And this certainly would provide a negative situation for any campground use, because when you bring in 150 residents a week, the likelihood that they're going to even be related is very remote. So that this would require a campground to have 150 cabins for 150 children. So it appears to me that as many zoning laws and things get written, there's always missteps in them when they're written, and it takes times like now to analyze those and maybe even get them corrected so some future people won't be in this same situation. So what we're looking for is to reuse this Boy Scout camp with some improved conditions that we're going through right now. And we're just looking to ask you people to analyze this one family per cabin as we think being an unrealistic situation. I think it's pretty much as simple as that from our standpoint. Okay?
Okay.
And you need any other overview? You know, the camp had a lot of original buildings, including major buildings, dining halls, recreation centers, and we're reutilizing those, we're improving upon those. There's many camp facilities located on this 69 acres that include lean-tos as well as leader cabins, and we've also gone forward with building 4 new cabins that would house children. With my taking the responsibility, I took it before I got planning board approval, saying if I was denied, then that would be my responsibility. Fortunately, the planning board went along with all this, and now we're before you to see what you can do to help us out in this situation.
Okay. Excellent. Mike Jr. Did you want to speak to in regards to this at all?
I really would have nothing to add to that.
Okay.
I think it's well stated the facts, what the
Okay.
we appreciate the consideration here.
Okay. All right. Moral support. I like that. Okay. Is there anyone from the public who would like to speak in behalf of this public hearing? And you just have to do the little hand raise if you would like to speak. Okay. All right. All right. Can I get actually, let me just ask, are there any general questions that the board has in regards to this application or for Mr. Munter?
My one comment would be, as far as the laws that are written, we can't change right now, but that's something we should look at in the future.
Definitely. Yes, I have.
We have to deal with what we have for now.
Yes.
And then the changes have to be made after that.
Yes, and I have a note here to look at that for future. I can work with Barb as our liaison and the town board to kind of put in a recommendation and some language, working with Mr. Kennery and Jim Craig to kind of formulate something in regards to that.
And that wouldn't have anything we wouldn't be involved in that, or we would? No.
Yeah, you would, definitely. I mean, we would all kind of work together, the board, to kind of put that recommendation into them, so, but that's definitely for like the future actions. Yeah, yep,
We'd sit down together, hash it over, and come up with some, yeah.
yep,
And
exactly,
then let the legal counsel go from there.
exactly, yep, yep. Okay, any other comments?
Just one. I read the resolution from the planning board. Would we be using that same resolution?
We would have our own resolution for zoning.
In essence, I mean, to me, it covered all the bases. It was pretty comprehensive, and to be honest, I really liked it.
Yeah, many of the things that, reasons that they gave on the planning board are applicable to our action as well. So whatever we state in our, approval, disapproval, whatever, are gonna go into this resolution. So,
We have to agree in our own.
yes, so you wanna state exactly, how you would like to put it in the resolution, basically. Okay? And then we refer back to, use variance criteria. So we wanna tie those two together, so it makes a cohesive, resolution. Okay, do I have a motion to, close the public hearing?
I make the motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Mr. Curry,
Yes.
Mr. Quiller,
Pass muted.
Pat, you're mute. Here, I'll unmute you. There you go.
Still.
Back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mr. Manning,
Yes.
Mr. Smathdown,
Yes.
Chairwoman Soden.
Yes. Okay, again, as I stated, referring back to the use variance criteria, I'd like to hear some justifications for or against this use variance for Mr. Munter.
From my point of view, I think we're keeping in character what it's always been, so I don't see really too many issues with it.
Megan, I feel the same way. It was a campground. I mean, it's always been a campground for Boy Scouts, and they've had how many hundreds of people up there. So, it's being the same as it was, I would think, almost.
Right, so it doesn't alter the character of what it was.
Not at all.
Okay. Any other comments?
Where do we stand on our resolution? Bill, have you worked on anything?
Yes. And what I can offer to you, Eric, is this in relation to your specific comment. One of the things that you may wish to consider is if you are favorably inclined, as you seem to have indicated based upon what you read the planning board to have approved, your approval resolution could remain subject to the terms, conditions, and limitations set forth within the special use permit, site plan, and subdivision that were conditionally approved by the Town of Milton Planning Board on May 20. And I think that would be advisable in this instance in light of your comment. Further, if I may, Madam Chairwoman, if it is your inclination, Eric, to move in that direction, my suggestion is you could consider a resolution to state something to this end. If it's an approval, it would indicate that the use variance application is granted and approved to the extent of 4 additional units, camps, cabins, or cottages, and all of the existing units, camps, cabins, or cottages shall be designed and occupied by children and appropriate staff, in total anticipated to be 150 campers and staff, in order to operate a children's camp known as Camp Stomping Ground on a seasonal basis, June to October. So, Eric, I would offer you those 2 elements or potential elements of any resolution that you may be considering. First, be clear as it relates to the nature of the relief that's being granted. And second, if your inclination is to move in the direction of an approval, I would encourage you, consistent with your thought, to make it subject to the relief granted by the planning board.
Thank you, Bill. I'm sorry, go ahead.
This may be a question that's not appropriate for this time, but if we are inclined to approve this, and then we change the zoning later on, would this still require the 5-year revisit to the special use or no?
Yes, Jerry, in his instance, he has a special use permit that would pre-exist any change. And
Right.
the planning board took the position, and I believe you're correct, that it was on a 5-year basis that they would be able to review whether or not, in fact, there was compliance. And your thought process is correct. Even though there may be a thought to change that zoning, it's not necessarily a sure thing. And so from the planning board's perspective, they wish to retain, if you will, that control. That's right. And the purpose of that is to ensure that the conditions on which the special use permit were granted are in fact being complied with by the applicant going forward.
Okay.
And I think the planning board was very focused on that.
Yes, it sounds that way.
It's nice to know a plan is followed up on. Where are we now, Meg? I mean, can we, I really don't want to hold them up.
Yep. So if we're ready to act, then we would need a motion to approve or disapprove the use variance for 3430 Boyhaven Road.
Well, let me see if I can, I'm going to paraphrase you, Bill, and refer to your, I couldn't take notes fast enough. I'd like to make a motion for a positive declaration that we approve special use permit with all of the conditions that have been described by our attorney, and that we also follow in the guidelines whatever tenants are approved by the planning board. Would that cover everything, Bill?
I think that's fair. Meg, would you like to translate to your liking, or would you like me to?
Bill, why don't you give it a go?
Okay. So I think, this is, and I think Eric has captured what I said. The one distinction, respectfully, Eric, that I would make is, in this instance, please recall that the relief that you're granting is in the nature of a use variance.
Right.
So that's first and foremost. So we're going to approve a use variance for the 4 additional units and all of the current units that are there, and require that they be designed and occupied by children and appropriate staff, and that we anticipate them to be 150 campers and staff in order that they operate a children's camp, now known as Camp Stomping Ground, on a seasonal basis, and that is June to October. And that the relief that's being granted by this board in the nature of a use variance is subject to the terms and conditions and limits of the special use permit, the site plan, and the subdivision that were conditionally approved by the planning board on May 20.
I couldn't have put it better myself.
Very good. I second that motion, Michael.
Thank you, Jerry.
Well put.
Yeah, it'll work.
Mr. Curtis?
Yes.
Mr. Pruitt?
Yes.
Mr. Mannix?
Yes.
Mr. Smansmouth?
Yes.
Chairman Surdick?
I'd like to first say that, I'm pretty excited to see this kind of come to fruition. I think it was a long time coming, and I'm pretty excited to see where it's going to go as some renovations and things will be made on it. I think it's going to be a great asset and not a detriment at all to the surrounding community, and as they advance and kind of do those renovations. So it's a definite yes for me. All right, well, that is truly exciting. So thank you for that. And so I think I don't have any further announcements unless anyone has anything additional they'd like to state for tonight.
Madam Chair, I'd just like to say thank you very much for all your effort. The staff, Tina, Brenda Howe, her assistant, Amanda, for all the assistance in putting everything together online. And I'd also like to thank the applicants and the public for bearing with us in these tough times right now. We're doing our best, and we hope to provide better service in the near future with the open public hearings.
Yes, we certainly do. I can second that from Bill. It's great that everyone's able to attend, and I'm really excited to just have the presence that everyone does. And Amanda, thanks for getting in, and Brenda, even though I can't see Brenda, she doesn't want to be seen, and Tina, of course. But thank you for everyone, because I know it's not easy. It's not easy talking over this. The applicants, it's not easy to just admit Muncher would like to speak. All right, I'm going to allow Mr. Muncher to speak.
One other thing, if anybody's looking for, okay, good, let Mr. Munter come.
Sorry. Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I think actually my father would like you could grab his phone number. Thank you for that, but I think he has a comment if you can switch over to his phone.
Okay. Well. Okay. Here we go.
Am I on?
You're on now.
Okay. With regards to your resolution, okay, and following the planning board's resolution, I just got a copy of the planning board resolution the other day, and there's one very disturbing comment on that resolution that I'm going to oppose, and I want you people to look at that. And that is that due to they want to restrict my use of Boyhaven Road to heavy vehicle traffic based on comments by your highway superintendent. And let me just say, this statement, this was brought up very, very
We have Mr. Bartow here on the line with us.
But that's good.
Okay, good. I'm gonna have him. Let's see. I'm gonna allow him to speak, and maybe he can speak to that and kind of give us just a frame of reference here, if you would.
Can I speak, Meg, first?
Yes, certainly.
Just to be clear.
Yes.
I can't speak to any communications that occurred outside of any public meetings because, of course, Mr. Munter, as you know, I was not present nor did I participate in any of those conversations. But I do think, to be fair, and I'm going to emphasize that, to be fair, some of the statements that you've made are mischaracterizations because what you said is not consistent with what the resolution says. There's nothing in the resolution that restricts anyone's ability to access any road, period. There's nothing in the resolution that restricts anyone's access to a road. And I'll quote, reading from the resolution, quote, "The Town of Milton Highway Department has expressed concerns regarding heavy equipment ingress and egress on Boyhaven Road, a town highway, and has stated that any heavy equipment ingress or egress to this parcel be limited to Middle Grove Road, County Route 21, and or New York State Route 29. Now, as I say, I was not privy to the communications that you may or may not have had. But as I read that, those are absolutely truthful facts. Those are not findings. So to represent to this board that the planning board made some finding that restricts a person's access to a road is inaccurate. What is accurate is what the resolution says and what I just read.
Well, can I comment on that?
Certainly.
Can I make a comment on that?
Yes. Yep. Go ahead, Mr. Munter.
Let's say today where we had concrete trucks coming in on Boyhaven Road. Those are illegal to access our site. Does that mean I have to build a new road from Middle Grove Road or Route 29 to get to my site? How do you answer that?
I answer that in the same manner that I answer any member of the public, and that the laws are applied equally to all, period. There's nothing in the resolution that restricts your access to the road. The resolution just simply states facts as they relate.
Doesn't the resolution state that they even mention log trucks in particular? No log trucks are allowed on that road. They have to be accessed from Route 29 or Middle Grove Road, okay? If that were the case, it would mean crossing two major creeks. I mean,
What I read to you is accurate.
did you read the entire resolution?
Yes, I did.
Well,
But what I read to you is accurate. It's the exact sentence that you referred to, and I quoted verbatim.
would you repeat that and read it in its entity?
Well, I'm going to take my direction from the chairperson. It's really not a conversation. This is a meeting.
Yeah.
It is a meeting, but in all fairness to you, to the board, I see your town highway trucks are allowed to use that road every winter with 30 tons on it. I have my neighbor who is a blacktopper that carries his
of family was how, and the use of that land. How the highway department, or, you know, and we deferred to the planning group to decide how that comes about. We just said it's okay for, you know, we were dealing with the definition of family and the housing and how that land was going to be used. As far as other parts of that land and, you know, weight limits on roads and things like that is really planning and really doesn't come under our jurisdiction at all, does it?
Well, you were going to adopt the town's planning board's resolution, which I object to.
Mr. Kennery, did you want to speak?
Sure. I think Mr. Smazanow is quite correct that the relief that's been asked for from this board is in the nature of a use variance. And that's what this board has the ability to grant. And that's what's been granted.
Correct. Yeah. Mike wanted to speak, so I'm just going to allow him to speak here. Just give me a second. Okay.
Yes, I was just gonna clarify there that if the resolution is amended by the planning board, then it wouldn't affect what you have approved. The facets of the resolution that you have approved that pertain to use.
Well, exactly what language are you talking about when you talk about an amendment?
The language that my father is disputing about the use of the road with heavy equipment or heavy trucks.
Is that the language that I read out loud and quoted verbatim?
Evidently, yes.
That's
Mike,
not what it
it
says.
actually doesn't state that, Mike.
Okay, well, whatever.
Can we
My point is if they come to some resolve on the language or back to the planning board level, that it won't affect what your decision was, since yours is a decision of use.
Right. Oh, Mike, yeah.
Can we let John Bartow weigh in on this so we have his point of view also?
I tried to, but he's not coming off mute. Oh, there he is. Okay, there he is. John, do you want to weigh in on the discussion here?
I will, I don't want to speak, I'll speak on my behalf. I don't want to speak
Yes.
on the whole planning board. They're not here, so I
Sure.
don't do that. But what I will say is that the first thing is this language that Mr. Munter is referencing is in our findings and not in the conditions. So it's implicitly a condition of the approval. And more importantly, it's in reference not to the 69 acres that's going to be the camp subdivision. It's in reference to the remaining 230 some acres that readily can get access to Middle Grove Road or New York State Route 29. And all it's saying that is if it can be, if that heavy vehicle ingress and egress, and in part it references forest management and timber harvesting equipment, can access those roads, which are much more improved than any town road we have in the town, that would be the preference of the highway department. That's all it says. It's not denying where he had a cement truck onto his 69-acre parcel, or if he has to have a paving vehicle get into his 69-acre parcel. No one can deny the right to use a public highway to get to that, but and that if there's an option on the larger parcel to have that ingress and egress on the county highway or the state highway, that is preferable.
John, I think that's an important point that you made. A couple different things, but that it is talking about that 228 acres, but also it doesn't, you have to really look at the language, because the language is important. How it's written, as Mr. Kennery has stated, doesn't exactly say that. So it's not saying you can't, but limited. So we would really like and prefer limit the traffic there if need be. Yes, you may use that, but limiting is really key to this. So I think with that said, unless there's any additional comments from the board. Okay. Can I get a motion to adjourn this meeting?
I make that motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll second the motion to adjourn the meeting.
Thank you very much.
And I think we all are in agreement that, Tina, that we will adjourn the meeting. Thank you again for everyone's participation. Bill?
Meg, one quick thing, you might want to remind folks that
Yes.
you are going to have a special meeting, as I understand it, right?
Yes. So, good point. There will be a meeting next Thursday, June 4th, for the 2 additional actions. I can't recall off the top of my head now what they are. But there are 2 actions. What is your paperwork? But we will have that meeting next week to discuss those 2 initial actions. Thank you.
And those applicants have been made aware of this special meeting.
Yes. Yeah. All right. Very good. Thanks again for coming, and we will see you next week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Good night.
Thanks, everybody.